The story of the British 1936 penny begins long before the year itself, because the coin belongs to one of the most eventful and dramatic periods in modern British history. The penny had been a central part of British currency for centuries, and by the time 1936 arrived, it had already gone through a long evolution in design, metal composition, and national meaning. The penny was a coin that ordinary people used every day in markets, shops, trams, and daily life, so its history is also the story of British society and the monarchs who ruled over it. In 1936, the British Empire was still one of the largest global powers stretching across continents and shaping world trade culture and politics. The penny of this year reflects the tail end of the long reign of King George V, who had ruled since 1910. George V guided the nation through the First World War and into an era of great change, including the birth of modern communication, the growth of industry, and the shifting politics of Europe. By 1936, his portrait had become familiar on coins and banknotes across the empire. The portrait on the 1936 penny shows George V facing left with a dignified expression reflecting the tradition of alternating monarch profiles with each new reign. The inscription around the portrait translates to George V by the grace of God, King of all the Britons, Defender of the Faith and Emperor of India. The reverse of the coin features Britannia, a symbol of strength, unity, and protection. She appears seated with a shield and trident, watching over the seas that connected the empire. The image had been used on pennies since the 17th century, and by 1936, it had become one of the most iconic images in British numismatics. The design represents stability, tradition, and national pride, something especially important during an era when economic difficulties and political tensions were rising across Europe. The year 1936 is also remembered as the Year of the Three Kings because Britain saw three monarchs in a single year. George V died in January 1936, which meant that coins dated 1936 were struck shortly before and shortly after his passing. However, no British pennies were produced with the portrait of Edward VIII, who succeeded George V but quickly abdicated due to his wish to marry Wallis Simpson, a situation that shocked the empire and forced him to relinquish the crown. Since Edward VIII abdicated so quickly and before full coin production began, his pennies never entered circulation. This makes the 1936 penny one of the last circulating pennies of the George V era and symbolically the final chapter of a long and influential reign. Production of the 1936 penny took place at the Royal Mint, using bronze alloy consisting of copper, tin, and zinc. The minting process involved preparing planchets, heating them, pressing them through dies, and inspecting them for quality. The Royal Mint in this period had developed strong industrial precision, allowing millions of pennies to be minted each year. The 1936 penny was produced in large numbers and therefore is not rare from a mintage standpoint, but its historical significance has made it highly popular among numismatists. Collectors also pay attention to small variations in the 1936 penny, including differences in strike sharpness, color toning, metal wear, and die characteristics. Over time, these differences can result from circulation conditions, storage methods, or environmental exposure. While most 1936 pennies were used heavily in daily commerce, some were preserved with care, which makes high-grade examples more valuable today. Well-preserved coins show clear lines in Britannia's, shield crisp lettering on both sides, and minimal surface wear. By the mid-1930s, the British economy was recovering from the Great Depression, and coins like the 1936 penny played a central role in purchasing basic goods such as bread, tea, clothing, and transport. The penny had strong buying power in these years, and its presence in pockets and purses across the country made it a familiar symbol of everyday life. Workers paid their bus fare with pennies, children bought sweets with them, and markets operated with transactions built around piles of pennies. This everyday usage gives the 1936 penny a cultural history that extends beyond royal portraits. The political world around the 1936 penny was shifting as international tensions rose, and the threat of conflict in Europe grew. With the rise of militarism in Germany, Italy, and other nations, Britain was preparing for potential changes that would eventually lead to the outbreak of the Second World War just 3 years later. The 1936 penny, therefore, stands at the edge of a major turning point representing the last phase of pre-war Britain, with its traditions still intact and its society not yet deeply affected by wartime rationing and industrial redirection. From a numismatic perspective, the 1936 penny marks the end of an artistic and stylistic era. The design of Britannia, which had remained largely unchanged since the Victorian era, would soon be replaced with new imagery as the monarchy transitioned and global events reshaped the nation. Coins, bearing the portrait of George VI, who followed Edward VIII, introduced a fresh era, but the 1936 penny remains a final reminder of the George V legacy. The coin carries with it the weight of an empire, nearing its zenith, yet also approaching a period of dramatic transformation. For YouTube viewers, a 2-hour documentary about the 1936 penny can explore deeper themes, including the life and reign of George V, the political consequences of Edward VIII's abdication, the minting traditions of the Royal Mint, the social life of working-class Britain in the 1930s, and how coins can tell the story of national identity. The documentary can follow the journey of the penny from design stage to production and then into circulation, where it passed through thousands of hands, each time being part of an everyday exchange. Its worn surfaces today reflect that long journey. Another important aspect is the transition of the British monetary system, which continued to evolve in the following decades, leading to decimalization in 1971. The 1936 penny belongs to the pre-decimal system, which functioned for centuries with pounds, shillings, and pence. Understanding the place of the 1936 penny within this system helps viewers understand British economic history, as well as the lives of ordinary people before modern currency forms replaced older denominations. The legacy of the 1936 penny remains strong among collectors, teachers, historians, and enthusiasts of British culture. The coin tells a story, not only of kings and political events, but also of factories, markets, railways, ships, soldiers, school children, and the countless citizens who used the penny every day. Its bronze surface holds the echoes of a country standing between tradition and transformation, between the stability of a long-reigning monarch and the uncertainty of a rapidly changing world.